Welcome everyone to our online Fairtrade wine event. I'm Terry. I work in the community and member participation team at our co-op, working hard with my team to bring you, our members, close to the business that you own and the products that you love. I also want to give a special welcome to any central co-op members joining us tonight. Cooperation amongst cooperatives is really important to us here, so we're really glad you're able to join us. The event is being recorded tonight for those who can't make it, so if you prefer not to appear on the recording, you can always leave your camera off. We'll also be sure to share the recording with you afterwards in case you want to watch any of it back. We're looking to get an email out with that tomorrow. We're joined tonight by Ed Robinson, our co-op Fairtrade wine buyer, who's going to be talking about the 3 co-op Fairtrade wines we'll be covering. Also in the background supporting in the chat, we've got Mark Robinson Field from the community and member participation team. He'll be sharing with you some useful links as we go and can help if anyone's having any issues with using Teams. So the running order for tonight is Ed's going to start us off with an introduction to Fairtrade, and in particular these Fairtrade wines at Co-op. He'll then bring in Walter to talk a bit more about the impact the wines, a bit more about the impact that the Co-op members like you make every time you buy these wines. We'll talk a bit more about where the wines come from, the kinds of projects that are made possible through the communities in Argentina through buying Fairtrade, and take you through a tasting for each of them as well. So don't worry if you've not got a bottle for yourself, there'll still be loads of interesting things to cover. Following this, we'll go into the Q&A, which is your chance to ask our wine experts anything about what you hear tonight, or Fairtrade, or wine related in general. As we go through the event, feel free to drop your questions into the chat, and we'll be sure to pick them up and I'll ask them on your behalf later on. When we do get to the Q&A, you'll also be invited to come off mute and ask your question yourself if you prefer by using the hands up function on Teams. Now, the hands up function is on a different place on your screen depending what device or browser that you're using, but it should be easy enough to spot. And if you can't find it or you do have any problems, just let us know in the chat and we'll do our best to help. We'll end the event with a quick fire question for one lucky member on the call to win a bottle of each of the wines that are featured tonight, so make sure you're paying attention. We are hoping to be done by 8 o'clock, but if we've still got some questions to get through and people are happy to hang around, we might stick on for a bit longer. So now I'm going to hand over to Ed.
Thank you, Terry, and welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time to join us on this rather blustery, stormy Thursday evening, and buenos tardes to all of those joining us from Argentina. We've got a few on the call. My name's Ed. I'm the Co-op's Fairtrade wine buyer. I've been doing it for 15, 16 years now, and yeah, Fairtrade's had a huge impact on me personally. It was 2010 the first time I went out to see a Fairtrade project. It was in South Africa, not Argentina this time, and I was trying to position myself as a tough talking buyer, young buyer at the time, if you can believe that. And I went to my first Fairtrade project supported by the co-op. It was a social project which gave social care to young children, and as I arrived there I saw 20 or 30 young, possibly cute kids, all between the ages of 2 and 3, all lined up, and they sang me a song, and I had to pretend that I had hay fever because my eyes were welling up, and it really made an impression on me. I was blubbing like a baby, and it's I've never forgotten it from that moment onwards. We've got about an hour together tonight, and the basic way we'll look at it is I'll give a bit of an introduction to Fairtrade and how it works. We've got a short video for you. We're really hoping, fingers crossed everyone, the technology works. Been assured it does. Then we're going to take you through the 3 wines which we're looking at today, which are the Tilimuqui Sparkling, the Fairtrade Pinot Grigio, and Fairtrade Irresistible Malbec. Sorry, my camera is blurred, so apologies if those didn't all come through. And then at the end, with each wine, we'll talk about projects that these wines support, so you can see exactly where the money goes. And at the end, there'll be plenty of time for Q&As. So please do, if you've got questions ready, please do, as Terry says, put them in the chat, and we'll pick those up right at the end. So without further ado then, I'm always conscious with these Fairtrade wine tastings that for a lot of us, Fairtrade can be rather an abstract concept, by which I mean that we buy Fairtrade, we're generally sure that something vaguely good happens to somebody somewhere as a result. Not entirely sure how that comes about. So just this is a very complicated topic, but I thought I'd just give you a very, very brief introduction. So I distilled it down to 3 separate parts, really. So when we buy Fairtrade products as a retailer, there's a Fairtrade minimum price beneath which we cannot go. that will either be that's the price set by Fairtrade International, or it will be the market price. So if the market price drops, for whatever reason, the producers are protected with a lowest price beneath which they're not able to sell. Secondly, worker treatment in the workplace. We all like to be treated with respect in our jobs. We like to be paid when we should be paid. We shouldn't be mistreated. We should have basic living standards provided for us if those are board and lodgings being provided by our employer. Those are the standards we would expect, and that the same goes for workers in fair trade entities, be that in Argentina, Chile, South Africa, wherever it may be. And the third, perhaps most visible bit, is what we call the social premium. So for every bottle of wine, in our case, a few pennies goes back. It's not an awful lot, but a few pennies goes back. And that enables, it all goes back to what's called the joint body. So it doesn't go back to the owners of the business. It goes back to a committee, which is made up entirely of farm workers, and it is they who decide where the money goes and how it should be spent. So that's the social premium. So there's the three main bits of fair trade. Now, the co-op, as I'm sure you know, is fairly well wedded to fair trade. When it comes to fair trade wine, we've been in it from the beginning. So fair trade wine as an entity started in 2004. Prior to that, there were fair trade standards for tea, coffee, sugar and whatnot, but not for wine. So we're very proud to say that the first ever fair trade wine was a co-op wine. We listed it back in 2004. And it went from there, really. We are the largest seller of fair trade wine in the country by a long way, and the largest seller of fair trade wine anywhere in the world. And each year, well, last year, we sent back £800,000 worth of this social premium, which we talked about earlier, to fair trade projects. So it does great things. These are all just numbers, these are all just statistics. So to give you a bit of a flavour of what happens when you buy these products, we've got a short video for you. We're going to take you now to Argentina and the La Riojana co-operative, and let's see where all this money goes.
When we first came to Tilimuqui over 10 years ago, we found this village in the middle of the desert with none of the basic needs covered. La Riojana has been always involved in the community, helping people through the sale of the wines. But of course, the resources were very limited. Since we are Fairtrade certified and we started using the logo and the label, we started to sell more. We started growing with one of our customers, the co-op in the UK. We decided our first Fairtrade project had to be bringing clean water to the houses in Tilimuqui.
Es algo maravilloso el agua. Se morían las plantas, no teníamos animales, se morían las gallinas de sed. No tenías agua para el baño, no puedes hacer nada sin agua.
But that was just the beginning, because this allowed us to dream bigger. And in 2010, we started building the secondary school. Same as for the water project, the co-op decided to double the Fairtrade premium. And so we finalized the school in 5 years instead of 10.
Les cambió la vida y la dinámica del pueblo. El pueblo tiene otra vida. El pueblo tiene otra vida, los chicos tienen otras expectativas.
Mis planes ahora futuro es poder trabajar acá como ingeniera. Todo lo que aprendí en ese colegio me sirvió mucho ahora en la carrera de agronomía, la que estoy empezando a hacer ahora.
A medida que va pasando el tiempo, nos vamos dando cuenta que el colegio de por sí es un motivador de cosas, nuevas ideas, de nuevas vivencias, y que la misma comunidad está inmersa en eso.
Now we have started to build a medical center with the constant support from the co-op and the wine sales. And hopefully in 3 or 4 years, we will have this clinic ready that will cover 5 villages in the region with about 10,000 people that today have no access to healthcare.
Yo quiero agradecerle a La Riojana todo lo que nos brindó.
Now they have the tool to build their own future. And this is what Fairtrade is about. You give the people what they deserve.
el agua, ahora el hospital. Vos llegaste al pueblo y trajiste vida.
Ojalá que sigan realizando obras así para cambiar el futuro de muchas personas.
Our story does not end here in Tilimuqui, but continues in communities all over the UK. It's like the co-op, it's a bridge between our community here and so many communities in the UK.
Now, I must have seen that video 100 times, maybe more. It never fails to make the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. And I'm very pleased to say that we've been honoured to have as guests with us this evening, all the way from Cordoba, Argentina, the narrator of that film, and a very good friend of mine, Mr. Walter Carroll. Please say hello.
Hi Ed. Hi everyone. Very nice to meet you all. Thank you very much for being here today.
Walter, it's so good of you to join us. Really, really appreciate it. And I wonder if you could just spend a couple of minutes just taking us back to 1999 when your involvement with the co-op first started, and then we'll launch into our first wine of the evening.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Walter Carroll. I work for the Riojana cooperative since 1999. It's 25 years already. And well, the co-op was the first customer that visited us when I started working for Riojana, and we were dreaming about exporting our wines to the world. And it wasn't only our first customer, it was also the first customer for the Fairtrade wines where we got certified, and it's today the largest customer in the world. I'm very proud to say we have been working 25 years together, growing together, and we are not only best partners, but also very good friends. And you, of course, are all part of that.
I should add that Walter is the man who's made everything happen on the ground in Argentina. He's far too modest to admit it, but all the projects we're going to be talking about this evening, Walter's been instrumental in making all of these things happen. We'll talk very briefly about our first wine. The emphasis of this evening really is unashamedly more on the projects than the wines themselves. But we will be talking in some detail about these three. So the first wine this evening, I don't know if that'll be visible to you, but this is the Tilimuqui Sparkling. You probably heard the name Tilimuqui mentioned in the film there. It is the name of the village where most of our projects are based, which we'll be talking through tonight. I'll just give you a very, very quick rundown of it. We launched it as a special wine for Fairtrade Fortnight. Fairtrade Fortnight's just finished. And it's an alternative to Prosecco. So we, as a nation, we have a love affair with bubbles and with Prosecco especially. And Walter and I have been talking for many years about doing a sparkling wine. Walter's been trying to persuade me for a long time that I should list his. And I finally relented once I tasted how amazingly good it is. It is a Torrontés wine. That's the base, is a Torrontés grape. Torrontés is native to Argentina. And it is known for its really, really vibrant aromatic fruit. So there are lots of melon and peach, apricot fruits on the nose. If you compare this to a Prosecco, there's infinitely more going on in this wine than in a Prosecco. Prosecco can be very light and almost bland, really, in comparison. So it's a sparkling Torrontés, and with nice, gentle bubbles. Lovely, lovely nose. I absolutely adore the nose of this wine, and really, really rich, fruity, carrot-full taste. It's been in our range for a few weeks now, and the reaction it's had from the tastings we've done over the last couple of weeks, including yesterday at a journalist tasting where all the national press were there, has been really, really promising. So, yeah, the sparkling market is dominated by Prosecco, Cava, Champagne. Not much in the way of Argentinian sparkling out there, or Fairtrade. Watch this space. We think things could be changing, and I think certainly we're going to be digging into a bit more detail at the end of tonight's presentation about what this wine specifically will support. So I'm going to hand back to Walter now. We're going to talk about the first of the three projects which we put in place back in 2005, 2006, wasn't it, Walter? So I'll let you tell the story.
Yes, thank you, Ed. Yeah, it was back in 2005, 2006. We named the sparkling wine after the village in the desert where we have made our main Fairtrade projects. The name of the town of the village is Tilimuqui, same as the wine. And yeah, let me tell you a little bit of the story, how we got there in the beginning. We knew we'll start selling Fairtrade wines, and we knew about the Fairtrade premium involved in every case, in every liter of wine that we will produce and export. So we're looking for a place where we could maybe do some small Fairtrade projects, so the money will go back to the community where the workers and producers live. So we took my car at the time with people from the co-op, buyers and marketing people, and drove around the valley, stopping in several villages. We're not quite convinced about what we should do and where. And on the way back, as I always and normally do, I got lost. I couldn't find the way back to the winery. And at that time, we had no GPS. Even if we had, you lost signal in the desert. So I was completely lost. And I found a little sign showing Tilimuqui. So I drove into this little village. And as it normally happens when you get there, people is very friendly, very open. Of course, they gave us directions, but they wanted to know what we were doing with, foreigners. And they never get visitors. So we start talking about La Riojana, about the co-op, about the wines, about Fairtrade. And they knew a bit about Fairtrade and what this could mean back in the communities. And then a lady called Carmen, she said, Walter, this is the place for you. We are the forgotten people. No one cares about Tilimuqui. We need everything here. We have no water in the houses. We have only a very old pump, like a mile outside the village. We have to walk every day to get some water because and so we have a very basic education. We don't have any healthcare system here. This is the place for you. And she was so convinced and such a strong personality that we were touched, and we said, okay, we'll come back and see what we can do. And so we start going there like very often to talk to the people, to get to know them. And so we decided this is the place where we can do our first Fairtrade project, which was installing a water system, a drill in the desert, a pump that can supply clean running water into the houses. So one of our members donated a little land in Tilimuqui, and we hired a company to make the drill and try to find the water in Tilimuqui. At the time, we thought with the normal sales level, we will need 1 or 2 years to collect the money to make the project. But sales went up. Co-op made amazing promotions and campaigns, and the wine was promoted and sold very quickly. And in 8 months, we got the money collected for making all the infrastructure for installing the water system in Tilimuqui. So we went to the little land. We made the drill. Normally, you find water down 120 meters. Nothing happened by 120. So we went down to 150. Nothing happened. So we decided, the company said, we have to find another place to go and try to find the water because this is completely dry. And we know, because it's really the middle of the desert, temperatures can go up to 45 degrees in the summer. So we knew it was very dry. But we insisted and we convinced this company to try for another day. They could only do 30 meters per day. So the next day they went down to 180, and it was like an explosion. They found like a lake of fresh, clean water, 180 meters down. And that was, as you can imagine, all the village was all standing there, screaming, happy. And so all I can tell you, like a month later, we made a huge part in the village, inaugurating the water, running water in every house. And of course, people from the co-op came, and all the village and people from other villages were there. And this is the day we really started to believe that we could do a lot more.
It's a lovely story, isn't it, Walter? And I know you were instrumental in convincing this company to drill even deeper to get that water. The amount of self-belief it took. And I've been out there to the Tilimuqui several times, and I couldn't get over the heat. And in the summer, wearing very, very thin-soled leather shoes, it was scalding the soles of my feet through the shoes. The pavement was that hot. I can't imagine what it's like to live in those kind of temperatures with no access to running water. It's something we all take for granted. You turn the tap and water comes out. And I remember, Walter, you telling me about the kids having hosepipe fights in the street, you know, just the euphoria there must have been when all of a sudden the water is turned on. And I know Walter's business, the winery, provides that access to the pump free of charge. There's no charge for any of those inhabitants in Tilimuqui for the water. And you've told me many times, Walter, how people who had left the village for obvious reasons now started to come back, families reunited. It's something as simple as providing water. What a difference that makes. So thank you so much for telling us that story. We're going to time is a little bit short, so we're going to move back onto the wines, and then we'll hear from you again, Walter, in a couple of moments. I hope everybody really enjoyed the fizz. I have to say I'm not unbiased, but I'm absolutely in love with this wine, and I think as an alternative to the mainstream entry-level sparkling wines, I think it's a great option. We were selling this during Fairtrade fortnight. It's only £6.50 on the deal. It's gone up a little bit now, but it is not an expensive wine, and that is part of our approach to Fairtrade. Really. We know that the more volume we can sell, the more you customers get involved with it, the more money goes back in terms of that social premium, the more money we can be spent on projects like the one which Walter just described, the more we can tell you about it, and then the virtuous cycle continues. But at the heart of it has to be a good product. If we're not selling you a good product, then you're not going to buy it, and the whole thing just no longer makes sense. So I hope you all enjoyed the Tilimuqui Sparkling, and look out for it on the shelves near you. It's going to be in a range until at least Christmas, I think. So our next wine, it's a great variety we're all familiar with. I don't know if that will be in focus. That is a Pinot Grigio 2023 from Walter's winery, La Riojana. And it's a Pinot Grigio with a difference. Again, it's not an expensive wine. This is around the £6.50 mark. Pinot Grigio, clearly it's synonymous with Italian wine, perhaps inexpensive Italian wines in restaurants, perhaps not always the best quality, shall we say, perhaps a bit bland maybe, perhaps a bit thin, a bit bland, tasteless. Well, not this one. It's partly due to the heats which we've just been talking about. It's so hot out there, 40-45 degrees, that the grapes are grown really off the ground, maybe 6-7 foot up, and that's to shelter them from the heat. With all that heat comes ripeness, comes sugar. It's naturally relatively low in acidity anyway, but there's a honey, kind of oily texture to this wine in a good way. It's got body and character and mouthfeel in the way that most Italian or cheaper Italian Pinot Grigios simply don't have. So it's got some really nice, again, very nice tropical fruit aromas, I would say, melon, mango on the nose, that kind of thing. Nice fresh one. We'll be coming on to the 2024 wines pretty soon, so I think around Christmas or just after you should see the 2024s. So this one is 2023 that I've got anyway, and give it a go. Give it a good swill. Have a good smell. Half of our perception of the wine comes through the nose, pretty much, and then give it a good swirl around your mouth. Really take it. Treat it like mouthwash. That's what I always say. Around the gum lines, and you're awakening all those sense receptors you've got in your mouth, and just see what you can understand that body I'm talking about. It's not the thin, tasteless Italian Pinot Grigio that we're perhaps used to. This one with some character. Cheers. Again, it's a wine I'm really fond of, and Rodolfo, who's the winemaker, seems to do a better job each year. His Pinot Grigio is fast becoming one of his trademark wines, I would say, and he's a winemaker who's really passionate about what he does. So we're really pleased that with this wine, it's a very popular one here at the Co-op. We talked about 3 projects. Walter's talked about the first, which is water. The second one is education, and I'll start off by saying, back in the days of our first visit there simply wasn't any secondary education provision. We've all been to school, so I think I'll let Walter pick up the story as we talk now about our second project, the school.
Yes, exactly. As I said before, they were lacking of water, education, and healthcare. And so once we finished the water facility, we decided we had to do something to change the situation there, because what we found there was a very basic primary school, only with 3 classrooms, 1 classroom for every 3 classes with 1 teacher each. So the teacher was jumping from the first grade to the second to the third all the time. And the same in the other classrooms. And the teachers, the children will attend school between the age of 6 and 12, 13, 14 years old. So what will happen after that is, with no secondary school, is that they would start working, start making some money, having a beer, having a wine, having a girlfriend. We found very young families with many kids in the age of 18, 20, 25, with 3, 4, 5, up to 8 children, very young families. And this cycle was repeating generation after generation. And we knew education was the only way out for them. And of course, building a secondary school involved a lot of money, and that would take ages to be completed. But this is when then the co-op decided to double the Fairtrade premium, so we could really build the school faster, because it was a sort of emergency, and we needed to change that. So we started building the secondary school in 2008, and at the same time, while sales were rising and the Fairtrade premium was increasing, the co-op was doubling the amount, donating an extra contribution. And I'm happy to say that we had enough built in 2010 to open the school with the first year with 30 students in 2010. As you can imagine, the other school was many times also during the year closed when they had no water, because they only had 1 toilet for 106 children. So this was like really the next big step for them to be free, because they could then start taking their own decisions. And so we started the first grade in 2010. We finalized the school. A couple of years later, 1 year after 1 year, we were opening the second year, the third year, and so on. Today, the school has 506 students, and we pass it on to the local university. The local university supplies teachers. They pay the bills for the long term, so we know the school is going to be there forever. And so it's completely independent now. And this is the way that we know the projects can work the best, because they will not depend on La Riojana. They will not depend on the wine sales now. They will depend on having the children attending the local university. And in 100 years, we won't be here, but the school will still be there. Now the school has also 15 hectares of experimental field, and they have sheep, chicken, they produce meat, they produce eggs, they produce chicken, grapes. The winery buys the grapes. They're members of our cooperative, so the winery buys the grapes from the school, and also the olives. They produce their own olive oil. If you one day visit there, you can buy their olive oil, and so it's really a huge success. And we already had like 8 graduations. So children, I have a long list of children that went to the university. We have a few working for the winery. It's an agricultural school, so it's exactly what our region needs as well. And as a part of the fair trade, what I call a secondary effect of the fair trade, the local government complete the primary school, build new classrooms, a sport field. So now the primary school is full, 7 classes, lots of teachers. So it's what I call a secondary school, secondary effect of the fair trade, because it creates like a competition with the government, and they tend to do things so they don't look bad against what private companies are doing. And to finalize, it's not only education, it's only at the school we have like 100 workers, 50 teachers, 50 people working, staff, cleaning, kitchen. The children attend school from 7:45 a.m. to 4 p.m. So they have lunch at the school. They have a beautiful kitchen and dining room, and all in Tilimuqui there is no unemployment, because everyone is working at the school. and that gives back dignity to the people in Tilimuqui, because they also have a purpose. They can go to work every day and see the children be educated. There are buses going in and out all day, as you can imagine, 506 children coming from more than Tilimuqui, all the villages surrounding. And this is all really thanks to 70% of the sales are coming from the premium from the co-op in the UK. So it's thanks to all the work we are doing there, all of you. Thank you.
It's thanks to the customers who are buying your wine. And I know, Walter, you're very generous in terms of giving us the best wines that you make, which we're delighted to stock. Walter, you mentioned the graduations. There's 7 or 8 graduations already. I was honoured to be invited to the very first graduation back in 2015, I think it was, wasn't it? And I won't lie, ladies and gents, when I saw the itinerary, I was rather overwhelmed. It says it starts at 5 o'clock, finishes at midnight. I thought, oh my goodness, this is quite a long event. I remember how boring my own graduation was, and I thought, oh, privately I was dreading it. And I turned up, and I'll never forget what I saw. There were 2 TV stations carrying the event live on local channels. The mayor was there, local university were there, 400 parents were there, and there was a party atmosphere. The children graduating the age of 17, 18, some of whom had written and performed their own music on stage as part of the event. And because I don't speak very much Spanish, I asked Walter, who's sitting next to me, when a bunch of children went up to collect yet another award. And I said, why these, what award's this then? Please tell me what this award is for. And Walter told me, well, these kids on stage have never missed a day's school. I said, what, in the last year? Because when I was at school, we had similar awards, you know. They said, no. They've never missed a day's school, ever. And it's at points like that where the penny drops and you realise just how much this means to people, how much it means to the students, how seriously they took their education and how seriously their parents took it, because they knew full well, had their children not had this opportunity, which Walter and his business had given them, the alternative for them would have been really, really dire. So we're incredibly proud to be part of the project of this school. Obviously wouldn't have been possible without your help. And 2/3 of the funding for that school came from the proceeds of co-op wines and donations which we made. Before we get on to the final project, we are on to our final wine of this evening. So this is a wine we've had in our range, I'm going to say since 2006. It's been in the range for a good long time, and is the Argentina's national red grape. It is, of course, Malbec. So it's hugely popular with you, and rightly so. It's won a lot of awards. It's won silver at Decanter. It's won best Fairtrade wine in the world. It's won the Which Award. I mean, it's a bevy of riches. Where did Malbec come from? Inevitably, it's France. It's known for its origins in Bordeaux. You buy that in Cahors, and it's Malbec, and it works really well in Argentina. It's well suited to the climate, which, lest we forget, is very, very hot. I should mention, by the way, how does it work in such heat? Well, the altitude. I think I'm right in saying the altitude in Tilimuqui is around 1,600 meters, something like that, which is around kind of Ben Nevis territory. So very, very, very rough speaking. It's the altitude which makes it possible. And it's a lovely, lovely dark, inky, almost purple colour, really, really rich and intense. And to see that if you have a glass in front of you, just tilt it slightly like this, you'll try not to spill it. You'll just highlight the wonderful colour of this wine. It's a wine which has been oaked, but it's been oaked in a proper way. So if you buy cheaper alternatives, they cheat, ladies and gents. They cheat by getting oak chippings and then dipping these chippings in the wine to impart an oak flavour. That's cheating. We don't cheat. We do things properly here. So La Riojana, they bought, I'm going to say 1,000 oak barriques. Am I right, Walter? Something like that. It's 1,000, 1,500.
Yeah, about that. Not quite 1,500, but yeah, around 1,000 barrels.
Around 1,000
over the years.
They're not cheap, especially when you have to import them into Argentina. But what they do is impart these lovely, rich, vanilla kind of a little bit of leather, lovely secondary characteristics to the wine, which really, really complement it so well and make it so interesting. And it's matured in oak between 9 and 12 months. So that's actually quite a challenge for a winery. You pick the grapes, you make the wine, you need another year to get your return on it. So it's a really, really serious product. It's quite dry in style. A lot of the Malbec, which we enjoy in this country, tends to be quite sweet. But this is quite dry. And if you try it, swirl it around your mouth, again round the gum line, you'll feel these, you'll feel your gums drying. That's the tannins, the phenolics in the wine. It's quite an angular, structured wine for that reason. That's why it goes so well with Argentina's national red meat, which is, of course, Walter, steak. Exactly. We all know that. So it's a marriage made in heaven for these two, and it goes well for a reason. I'm going to hand you back now to Walter, and if you could tell us, Walter, about the third and final, final so far projects you're working on, and bring us up to present day.
Yes, I wouldn't say final. I would say the last so far, because it's we hope we can continue, and hopefully we will move and find another Tilimuqui, because I think it's also, if Tilimuqui stands up on their own legs, we should move and let them be independent and grow by themselves. But as I said before, this circle, the spiritual circle that we're trying to build, was based on basic needs, water, education, and healthcare. Because let me tell you how the situation was there when we first visited the village. They had a lot of children, about 105, 106 children living in the village, and they had a doctor, a pediatrician, coming every Wednesday morning. So as you can imagine, when a child went sick on Wednesday afternoon, they had to wait a whole week to get attention, and that was terrible, because in the village there were no buses, no cars, no bikes, so they couldn't go to the next village. Was in a car 15-20 minutes, but walking, somebody sick, couldn't do it. So again, it was difficult for us to decide, either school comes first or the healthcare, the clinic. But reality also shows that it's a huge challenge to build a clinic, because it's not only the building, which we have finalized. After 2 or 3 years, we finalized the building, but all the equipment and all the furniture, that's really needs a lot of time and investment, and that's a huge challenge. Important is we are in the process, and we're trying to make and it will be a big party, hopefully in 12 months from now, September 2025, plan the opening party of the clinic, where we are hoping we have like 30 rooms. We need to buy the furniture. It's supposed to be a clinic for mother and children, maternity clinic, and also a little emergency room. So we're counting on the next 12 months that we'll be able to collect and complete the monies to buy the furniture and the equipment. And I know you are all here today because you are interested, you care, you are supporting, hopefully, and you want to know where, if you buy a Fairtrade wine, what you are supporting, where the monies go back. It's very important for me to say, Ed mentioned before that we are giving you the best quality, but it's not only this. Ed comes every year, tastes the wine in April, right after the vintage, selects the tanks, selects all the wines that he likes, and then we lock the wines for the co-op, because today is not only our main customer in the world, but it also means over 60, almost 70% of our total sales. So it's really very important for us. But more important for me is to explain that Fairtrade is not charity. Fairtrade, we really have to make a very good quality wine at a very good price. So you buy it, you choose among the other wines, and you select our wine because you like it, because you like the quality and the price. Because Fairtrade, and I say that in the video, is not charity. It dignifies people, it dignifies the work, it gives people what they deserve. And this is what we're trying to do with Fairtrade. And this is how we feel. We feel very proud. We feel very proud that the wine are selling so well, because we know if it wouldn't be good quality wine at a good price, you wouldn't buy it. Because everyone is happy to help, but wouldn't buy a wine if you don't like it. So hopefully in 1 year, we will have completed this virtuous circle: water, education, healthcare. And if you follow Co-op or if you follow us, you will be able to share the party with us.
And it's going to be a big party, isn't it? I can't wait for that next year. So we're hoping for next September, we think. It's a bit difficult to put the date on it yet, but depending on how the sales go, we could be looking at a full opening of the clinic next September. And I did say earlier on, if you remember, that there was a bit of a story about this, the Tilimuqui sparkling. So I wonder if you could tell us what we've got an allocation of this sparkling. If we sell it all, I think something magical will happen if we can sell all our allocation of the sparkling wine. I could tell the ladies and gents what that will fund.
Yes, we produced for this special occasion, 30th anniversary of the Fairtrade, 20 years for the wine, 50,000 cases, all shipped, all in all the supermarkets in the UK, and if hopefully with the premium collected from, if we manage to sell all the wines, all the Tilimuqui sparkling wine by the end of the year, Christmas included, they will found for the clinic the emergency room, which is of course a very important part of the clinic and what we need.
After all these years, it still blows my mind that something as simple as buying a bottle of bubbly can provide an emergency room for a community of, well, between 10 and 15,000 people are going to have access to this clinic. This is not just
yes.
There's a tendency to think of some of these things as a bit of a shed in a field, if you like. The school, the clinic, they're huge. They would grace any of our local communities, and they make a huge tangible difference. And that's, speaking as a buyer based in England, what's really hit home to me with my involvement in it is that, going back to what we were saying earlier, fair trade being abstract, it does something somewhere. It absolutely does. Fair trade makes a huge difference to a lot of people's lives, and a really meaningful, long-lasting difference to so many people. And so by buying fair trade, wherever you choose to buy it from, you really are making a difference, and it's a change for good. And
there are other wines. There are other wines from us, but I would also like to mention that we also sell our olive oil from our members. It's one of the couple of Fairtrade olive oils in the world. It's organic and it's Fairtrade, and it's also available in most of the co-op stores. And it's also, everything goes to the same fund, to the same projects, and it's from our members. Publicity, it's called.
Well done. Thank you very much. That's wonderful, Walter. Thank you so much. And I think we're going to hand back to you now, Terry. And thank you all very much for listening. We've got some Q&As, I think.
Thank you so much, Ed and Walter. Like, I'd never tire of hearing these stories and hearing, just by, like you said, just by something quite simple, like just buying a fair trade bottle of wine can make such a huge difference. And it seems to be going down very well in the chat as well. There's been a lot of people talking about it. People have already been looking up the olive oil from when you mentioned it earlier. So brilliant. Right. So we have had quite a few questions coming in. So I'll jump straight into the Q&A. So just a reminder, if you do want to ask your question in person, if you find the raise hand option on screen, if you click that, I'll be able to take you off mute and you can ask your question yourself. If you prefer to write it down and put it in the chat, I'll read it out on your behalf as well. So we have been getting some questions, so I will jump into them now. So Anne Jones asked about the Tilimuqui sparkling. Is it made more like champagne or Prosecco?
Well, shall I answer, Walter? It's more like Prosecco. So Prosecco, champagne's traditional method. It's fermentation in bottle. It is very expensive to make wine that way. So we use a base Torrontés, and then we make a sparkling wine out of that. There's various ways to make sparkling wines, but yeah, it's the focus for us is making a product which can beat Prosecco at their own game, and hopefully we've succeeded here, or rather, Riojana have.
Cheers, thank you. So Stephen Sam asks, how popular are these wines in Argentina, and for the people in the region themselves? Do they drink these wines?
We have other wines in Argentina. Argentina has other concerns. Is for the last decades, we have been in constant crisis in Argentina, inflation, recessions. I mean, the economy is quite tough in Argentina. So fair trade is not really one of the concerns that people will have today. So we have, we cannot, although we are 100% fair trade certified, the wines that we sell in Argentina are not always fair trade. We're trying to launch now some fair trade products in Argentina to see the reactions in the big cities. But of course, similar wines, different labels, different brands, but hopefully also very good quality.
Awesome, thank you. Right, Ed, I think this question's directed for you for this one. So Peter asks, it's a general fair trade question. So fair trade doesn't include European nations. I work with Ukrainian co-ops supported by the Canadian co-op sector. Does co-op group ever apply fair trade buying principles to European projects in the way, for instance, that Lega co-op in Italy do?
It's a good question. The fair trade standard, first of all, applies to the developing world, and in terms of wine, we're really looking at South America, so Chile, Argentina, and South Africa, and most fair trade wine tends to come from South Africa. But it's a good question. And it's been put to me by winemakers and from all over the world, really, who are struggling for various reasons. But obviously, in Ukraine, they've with the war that's going on, it's very clear what's happening there. The short answer to the question is, as a responsible retailer, we like to support producers wherever they are. So the origins of the co-op are 1844, Rochdale pioneers providing unmolested goods at a affordable price to local people. Well, fair trade is the foreign embodiment of that. And when we're buying wine, whether it's fair trade or not, we like to buy wines which have got a purpose behind them. So we've got wines which help projects in Sierra Leone, wines with environmental projects behind them. And I can think of a wine which actually contributes to taking plastic out of the ocean. So we don't have any wines from Ukraine in our range, but we're constantly looking for new ones. And the short answer to the question is yes, it's in our ethos, it's in our bloodstream to do the right thing. And because, not least because we know from our customers that there's an appetite for it, for the end product. So yes, that kind of thing we'll definitely have eyes on.
Cheers, thank you, Ed. So Rebecca asks about the Pinot Grigio. Any advice on which of these wines are worth buying to lay down, and which ones should be drunk sooner?
Well, do you want to go for? I would say the Malbec. You definitely want to. You could definitely keep that. I've got some bottles from 5-10 years ago, and given the very serious way that's made, then yes, you can definitely keep that. I think the other two wines we tried here tonight, you drink those fresh. You know, the PG and the Tilimuqui sparkling. You really do need to be drinking those fresh. But I wonder, Walter, if you've got any further ideas on that? It's not just the Malbec, I don't think, is it?
Yeah. But I agree. The Malbec is a wine you can storage, and I have myself wine from the first bottlings we ran for the co-op back in 2006, and I had 3 bottles. I like to open one like a year ago, and the wine was still. I mean, knowing the story, I was very impressed by how it holds. But I would say you can keep the Malbec for 5 years and plus, and enjoy. It will get better with time. The other ones, the whites, are better to taste, to try them fresh, and the sparkling as well. And we have the Cabernet and the Merlot as well in the that you can also keep for 1 or 2 years. That wouldn't be a problem. But the wines are fruity and fresh. Outside from the Malbec, I would say the others you can enjoy rather soon than late.
Yes, thank you. Just a reminder for everybody, if you want to ask your question in person, you can use the raise hand function. So another question here from Stephen Sam about the Malbec. A lot of Argentinian reds we've drunk are 14% plus. Any specifics on why this comes in at a lower percentage?
Do you want to say this, Walter?
Yeah, the Malbec is 13%, and the whites are 12.5%. We were trying to keep the fruit and maybe reduce the alcohol for the future. But for now, it's important that we can keep the full body and the fruit. But in our region, we tend not to go higher than 13% normally, not 14 in any case almost.
It's quite a battle, isn't it, with the heat and retaining the structure and the acidity of the wine. And once if things are allowed to get out of control, then yeah, alcohol goes off the scale, and you end up with. They do a really great job with balancing the wines. It's not easy in that environment.
Now we have to harvest at night because the day sometimes, especially for red grapes, during the day it's not only too hot for the workers, but it's also bad for the grapes. It is a challenge. We are in the altitude by the Andes. Temperature is very high, but the nights are very cold because we're in the desert. So as much as the temperature can go up to 45 degrees during the day, can go down to 15 at night. So this is very good for the grapes, very good for the plants, very good for the wines.
Cheers, thank you. So Gina asks about the Malbec. Am I right in thinking that the others weren't organic that we've covered tonight? If so, why the difference with this wine? So why is this one organic and the other ones aren't?
Well, La Riojana is a cooperative formed by small growers mainly. Family work, they do everything by hand, but they're very atomized. It's very difficult to certify all of them as organic. We know the wines are organic because they don't use pesticides or they're very small. I mean, our growers go from half a hectare to 3-5 hectares. We have a couple of mid-size and 2 or 3 big growers, but really out of 500 families that we like to call our members, 85% are small producers, and it's family work. They do everything by hand. We do certify some mid-sized growers in our own vineyards at the cooperative for the wines that we like to sell as organic certified, but it wouldn't be possible to certify such small vineyards, small growers, very expensive and very atomized. So they wouldn't do it anyway either. But you have to know that members are very small. They do everything within the family, and the wines. We have one of our vineyards. We have a compost machine, and we have the sheep, 1,000 sheep, and we produce with all the waste of the vineyard, which is like 5 tons of waste that 10 years ago we had to burn into the atmosphere until, thanks to Fairtrade, we bought this compost machine and the sheep, and we produce now organic compost, and then we produce an organic fertilizer that's given to all the members for free, so they can use the fertilizer in the vineyards, and it's organic.
That's fantastic. Cool. Next question is from Hugh on the Malbec. So the Malbec in my local store is 2022. How does this rate or compare with other recent years, and will it benefit from being kept if I can resist?
Well, that's the newest vintage. So I think we're going to be moving on to 23 in the new year. I think it is, Walter.
Sorry, I was reading one of the questions.
All right, we're just talking about the vintage on the Malbec. So yeah, that's the freshest we've got. By all means, hang on. It is ready for drinking, and I've tasted it, and it's absolutely glorious. It gets better every year. If you can resist it, or if you fancy buying another bottle to lay down, then absolutely you can leave that for another 2-3 years. It will just get more and more mellow. So it will soften out even more. But the choice is yours. It's definitely ready for drinking. And
I would strongly recommend that you.
So I think the second part of the question, Walter, was how did various vintages fare? How, in your opinion, how good was the 22 compared to some of the past ones?
Oh, well, as you said before, working together, knowing the market, working with you, Rodolfo, winemaker. Rodolfo has been working for La Riojana for 40 years. He was a brilliant kid when he was very young, and his father was working at the plant. He was a plant manager many years ago, and so the winery recognized his talent and gave him a scholarship to go and studied at university, and so he became a winemaker. And then he made his PhD. He's one of the few PhDs in enology in South America. And so I would say I admire his work. I mean, it's fantastic. I would say, and working together with Ed, the wines are getting better and better every year. We get the medals. I have the medals here behind me. I mean, it's we got Malbec has been chosen as the best fair trade wine in the world the last 3 years in a row. It's I would strongly recommend you buy one box, 6 bottles, drink one, and then keep the other 5 1 year after year, and repeat this every year. And then you tell me how it was, the experience. And we finalize projects here.
That's very wise advice, Walter, isn't it? I think something which Rodolfo is very, very good at is listening to, I mean, living in such an isolated community in the middle of Argentina, away from the major winemaking areas in Argentina, having a handle on what styles are really popular over in our country, thousands of miles away, it's not as easy as you might think. And he's been very, very adept at tuning himself into that. I like not only with the Malbec, but I think the rosé, which isn't on taste here tonight, but you'll see it just over Walter's right shoulder there. So Rodolfo's done a wonderful job at echoing some of the styles we see in France with the Provençal style. And I strongly urge you to try. If you like rosé, pale rosé, which is very much on trend these days, very much urge you to give that a whirl. It's an absolutely glorious wine.
Well, thank you. So looking at the time, we've got another couple of questions coming in, but I think first, we'll do the prize draw for the bottles of the wines that we featured tonight. I say prize draw. This one's a bit more of a competition. So if we cast our minds back to when Walter was talking before, we've got a quick question about the secondary school. So it's the way we're going to do it is the first correct answer in the chat will win. So Walter told us how many students are currently at that school. So if you can remember, there we go. The answer's there already.
Yeah.
Well done, Chris. 506 is correct, I believe. That's
a very, very fastest finger first. That's very impressive.
Absolutely. So well done, Chris Healy. We'll be in touch with you. Mark will drop some instructions in the chat now, and then we'll pick up with you to get those wines sent out to you. But well done, congratulations. Right, we do have a couple of questions still in the queue, so we'll run through these and then we will call it. So first one is from Chris, who asks, is climate changing the area's wine production, or for that matter, water security? So how is climate change affecting the wine growing?
Yeah, of course, it's also affecting us. As we are quite isolated in La Rioja, but still the climate is changing. The temperature is going high and high every year. I mean, it rains very little in La Rioja, which is good for the grapes. We have underground water, but we still need the snow in the mountains and the high temperatures in the high altitude for the glaciers, because we use the water from the mountains, from the snow. And yeah, this year we had the first snow almost by the end of the winter. The mountain was completely white, and that's very good because at least we know we're going to have the water for the rest of the year. But until then, which was only 2 weeks ago, I was lucky enough to be there to see that. But until then, we were very worried because, yeah, the summer was quite mild, soft and warm. And I have to say, raining is less. Sometimes in other parts of Argentina, either you have no rain at all or a lot of rain. I guess it's happening the same as in the rest of the world. It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge for all of us. Production used to be much more in the past than what is it now. So I think it's a problem. It's a global problem. It does affect us too.
Cheers. Thank you, Walter. But looking at the time, it is 1 minute past 8, so we will call it there. I've just seen somebody asking in the chat, when's the next one? So the next online wine event like this is going to be on the 7th of November. It's a Thursday again. It's going to be from 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock, and it's going to be looking at some of our fortified wines. So our 10-year-old Tawny Port, our own label one, and also a Taylor's Select Reserve, which is exclusive to Co-op. So Mark's just dropped the link in the chat now. So if you do want to book on early, you can click through and book on now. But other than that, I just want to thank everybody for spending the evening with us tonight and learning more about this. I feel like I've learned loads as well, and it's always a pleasure listening to Ed and Walter. They're so passionate about what they do, and it's just brilliant that we can actually jump on a quick Teams call and just hear more about it directly from them. So massive thank you to you too. I will leave the call open for a couple of minutes just in case anybody wants to scroll up and save any of the links that we've been posting throughout the event. If there's something in particular that you do want that you can't scroll up and find, let us know and we'll drop it in the chat again. But other than that, I think we're pretty much done. So thank you very much, Ed and Walter, and everyone for coming. And we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.